Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Heather Frierson, and I'm your host of the Business Spotlight podcast. And today I have Chris Sunseri, owner and operator of South Austin Metals. And today we're going to be talking about his business journey to ownership and the challenges, best practices, and really just share a sneak peek of what it's like to own and operate a business. So if this is your first time on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe to get a notification every time a new show drops, just like this one. Well, Chris, welcome to the show. We're so glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you, Heather. Appreciate being here.
Well, I would just love for you to give us a little bit of background about who you are and tell us a little bit about your business.
Yeah, so I am a kind of recovering corporate type, and was looking for options for my career and for my family about 6 years ago, and kind of uncovered some, unique opportunities to fund businesses, and a business acquisition. It's something that I kind of always wanted to do was, run a small business. And so I found, these companies 6 years ago. This is South Austin Metals, and made the transition from the corporate world into small business ownership. And things have been very well. We've enjoyed serving the community here in Austin now for 6 years. One interesting thing that's unique is we just moved the company about a year ago. So we moved from up in the St. Elmo area to kind of south on I-35, and that has brought a significant amount of challenges. But after a year, I feel like our operations are stable. So the business that we're running here, South Austin Metals, we're kind of doing a hybrid between open to the public steel sales, and as well as doing fabrication services, right? And we found that there was a need for that in the market. I mean, there are a lot of companies that will sell you steel of all different shapes and sizes, right? But usually what happens is you either have to customize it yourself or build it into what you need it to be, or you take your steel to somebody else and they buy and they'll customize and fabricate on your steel, right? So we'll be able to do both, right? So people are able to select the things that they want. We have fantastic pricing because of the volume that we buy, which is really that's what's
Mm.
unique, right? I mean, most of your fabricators are gonna go buy this material from a distributor who's going to charge significantly more than we're going to charge. Because of our volumes, we're able to pass that price point on,
Mm.
right? And then we can, we have a very diverse collection of tools in our fabrication that we've specifically selected to give us the most capability possible, right? So we are a build to print shop, and people bring us every type of project you could imagine, from handrails to catwalks to planter boxes to doors and windows, and we're able to, with our unique selection of tools, we're able to bring a lot of value for our customers. Then when we're done, we're going to deliver it to you, and that also is something that helps a lot of our customers who aren't really set up to have a 10,000-pound project of steel delivered to their front door or come pick it up. I guess is the on the flip side, right? So we're bringing a lot of value in that space, and certainly enjoying it.
Wow. I love that you have enough volume to where customers that are listening right now can create or hire you for projects that are at a reasonable price other than other companies. So what interests me about your story that I'd love for you to share and dive deeper in is that you mentioned coming from a corporate background into wanting to own a small business and
Mhm.
making that acquisition. But South Austin Metals? Why a metal shop?
Well, I guess that story is, I wish that it was more interesting than than it sounds. For me, what I was looking for was a specific profile of a company, and what I found is there's a lot of small companies out there for sale, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, they're heavily dependent upon the existing owner, who is usually the founder, right? So,
Mm.
I looked at company after company that I was very interested in what they did and the product that they sold, but I really looked into the sales pipeline, and you see that, it's a company that's been around for say 20 years. It's in the, $5 to $7 million revenue range. And the founder has been there from the very beginning, and it really started out with just the founder. 20 years ago. And so eventually, when they kind of get to that 5, 7 million, $8 million range, they have a staff and they have people that are doing production. But a lot of these companies are very, very heavily dependent upon the relationships that the owner has or the knowledge that the owner has of the industry. And so what I was concerned about was, my corporate background was supply chain and purchasing, as well
Mm,
as service and a lot of customer interaction. But that was in the semiconductor space. And so I really
mm,
didn't have the experience with, metal or windows or selling granite countertops or, a lot of the, pools, a lot of the things that are for sale out there. Right. And so what I was looking for was a company that had enough gravity around it so that when the owner made their eventual exit, that the business would falter because it was so dependent upon the
mm,
relationships and the knowledge of that particular owner, right? I mean, if you're in a normal acquisition process, you're looking at the owner staying and consulting for 3 to 6 months afterwards, and I didn't feel like that would be enough time for me to, for example, if it's a granite company, to absorb all the relationships and all the knowledge that I would need to
mm,
be able to be successful. So I was looking for a company that had a sales staff, a sales pipeline, an operations staff, right? So it needed to be a fairly good size company, just in that the people in the company would keep the sales relationships going so that I could come in and bring, the expertise that I had in business and supply chain and those types of things and
mm,
work on improving the internals of the company, but not necessarily being the guy that's going out and doing all the selling and the
mm,
relationship management with the customers. And so for me, I was looking for more of a profile. And as much as I hate to say it, I didn't really care what the widget was, right?
mm.
So that's why I was looking at, multiple types of companies, right? Because what I wanted was for the staff to be able to continue that and then have confidence that, with my experience of 20 years of international business, that I would be able to, make improvements in the company. And we've actually done that. We've grown it significantly since the time that we purchased it 5 years ago.
That's amazing. And what made me think of that is I've heard the statistic that in 5 to 10 years, there'll be many boomers, boomer generation that will be wanting to sell their company.
Mhm.
And that's what this generation should be looking at is what companies to buy. And you just really outlined a really good formula for what would work and what wouldn't. How did you know that that was important?
Well, obviously when you're making the step from corporate world into small business, I wanted to look a year down the road from the purchase time. And so,
Mm,
what's the company going to look like if I'm the only person that is sitting at the top of the organization, for lack of a better term, right? And so I really wanted to look at what is this owner who is exiting, what are they doing now in the business, right? And do I have the knowledge and the ability to immediately replace those things, or is that something that the existing staff is going to be able to take over, right? I mean, there's a lot of, I didn't want to say I was looking for a company that had, absentee owner, because that
mhm,
would be fantastic, right? Then I really don't have to do much. I just stay an absentee owner, right? I wanted to be actively involved in it, and I certainly wanted to put my fingerprint on it from an organizational perspective, from a supply chain perspective, from the way it manages its vendors, right? But when I looked at a lot of these companies, they were so heavily dependent on these owners, right? And
mm,
their knowledge, right? It would be, a guy that, I keep going back to Granite because there was one that I was really, really interested in.
okay,
But, he had started, the owner had started, 20 years ago as, one guy who knew a whole lot about granite and granite countertops, right? And so, he had all these relationships with all the builders all around Austin. But he made the sales. He went out and took all the measurements for everything they
mm,
were going to do, brought it back to his staff of people. They cut everything up and then delivered it. I thought, I can't do that. I
Mm,
wanted to be very honest with myself. I mean, obviously I have to have some confidence, say, well, I'm a smart guy, I could figure that out. But the reality is that you don't gain 20 years of experience from an owner in a couple months
mm,
of a handoff. And so I knew that I would have limitations, and I had to do some soul searching there. I had to be really honest. Like
mm,
there was a lot of things that owners were doing that I could not do. And so I wanted to be very, very careful about the way that I selected something, right? I knew that I had experience running very large organizations across multiple countries, right? So as long as the staff has a sales pipeline, an active sales process, and people that can do the fulfillment of the operations, right? I felt like I could bring in my experience to the organization and the way we purchase,
mm.
again, organize the supply chain, all of that, and bring value. But
Yeah.
I had to be honest about that. That I mean, there's a reason that a lot of business acquisitions fail, and it's because the founder is leaving, and they are the
Mm,
business. So I had to have a business that was big enough that it would continue to progress without that owner. So in this particular case, there was 50 employees, right? Well, that's a pretty good center of gravity, right? And
hmm.
I looked at the organizational structure. I just wanted to make sure that it would continue without the founders being here.
I think that's such good advice, even for our listeners who are the founder of their company as they think about exit strategy, how to
Hmm.
set themselves up for the long term so that
Right.
one, they're leaving a legacy because obviously the founder did leave a legacy and handed it over to you. And also to set a company up successfully. So I think that's so ingenious, one, that you were looking for it and that the owner was able to do that before you. So with that transition, tell me about that transition a little bit and how that worked.
Well, it was it was very, very difficult.
Mm,
And I think that when you're in the corporate world, I was with a very, very large company out of Silicon Valley, and you take for granted the fact that there's somebody that's an expert in everything, right? You
mm,
have a legal department, you have people that are doing the advertising, you have people doing the receiving, you have people managing the cash flow, right? All that stuff's kind of taken care of for you, right? I mean,
mm-hmm,
as a supply chain manager and a purchasing manager with that company, um, I could focus on those activities, and that's what I did.
yeah,
And frankly, I mean, even after 20 years, I really didn't understand the concept of cash flow, right? I mean, this was a
mm,
phenomenally successful company that was making, 40% margins and massive cash coming in. I thought, man, cash was never an issue. And so I kind of had this impression that, oh, those things just kind of work themselves out. Well, they don't. They don't, as I've learned. I unfortunately had an expectation that, people were very honest and people paid their bills and they paid what they
mm,
owed you. And, I didn't realize that I was going to be chasing people all over the city, trying to get paid for jobs that were
mm,
completed. I mean, for example, we're struggling with that right now, almost 5.5 years later. So we had to make some changes in the way that we were interfacing
mm,
with customers and require some down payments and, require, if I'm going to run out and do some field welding, getting a card on file so that I can bill them at the end of, these are things that were not happening in the
mm-hmm,
company before.
mm,
But so the transition was very difficult because I learned the challenges of an entrepreneur. I don't have this massive staff of data analysts and IT experts and product experts and advertising people, and where there were gaps in the organization, and there were a lot. I had to get really smart on those things really quick. Like,
mm,
how do we advertise? Well, I don't know. I've never advertised before, but I better figure it out, right? So, I mean, for me, I do a lot of outreach. I'm reaching out to different companies, getting their opinions. Obviously, there's a lot of, everyone's a consultant, and everyone wants to help me. And there's a price with that. And I've also realized that you can bring in more opinions and advice than you can actually action.
mm,
An organization can only digest so much change effectively, and obviously, I needed to do a lot very quickly, and certainly in the last year, we've needed to do a lot very quickly as well. But I also have to be careful that I'm not bringing in more change than the organization can digest, because that can
mm-hmm,
create some resentments and some confusion, and so we're very careful about that as well. But the biggest challenge of transition was my own capabilities and my own understanding that
Mm,
there isn't an expert everywhere, right? I'm not in part of a 20,000 employee company anymore that has really, really good people everywhere that come in and take care of things. And
mhm,
in a small organization, I mean, we're at, about 35 employees right now. There's a lot of gaps. We
mhm,
don't have a
mhm.
chief marketing officer. It's me. uh,
Yeah.
and I don't have a staff of attorneys that are constantly looking at everything single thing that happens, right? It's me calling our one
Mhm.
attorney if I want to pay him $30 or $300 an hour to give me advice on a particular challenge.
Yeah. I think a lot of people can feel your pain on that one. From leading being the head of a lot of departments, if you will.
Hmm.
So, how has this been for you personally? From you mentioned at the beginning, you wanted to transition out for family and all the things. How has this been able to affect your life in a positive way? And what is it, has it allowed you to be able to do?
Yeah, I think one of the things that was really challenging was the travel.
Mm,
I mean, I was going to China for a week
mm,
every quarter, and then throw in a couple Singapore trips and throw in Japan maybe in a
mm.
year. You're pushing 200,000 miles. The
Yeah,
recovery from a trip like that is pretty unbelievable. You get in
I
at one
bet.
one in the morning, you're at work, 6 o'clock the next morning, and that is incredibly difficult. And there are road warriors all over this country that are,
Mhm.
they're incredibly dedicated people, and so I have a lot of respect for that. My kids, when they were 2 and 3, did not know that Dad was gone for a week,
Mm,
and but when they started getting 4 or 5-ish, it was, well, Dad's gonna
mm,
be gone for a week, and that was, I could see that that was very difficult on them. It was always also very difficult on my wife, and I didn't feel like that was the pathway that I wanted. I wanted to be a dad, and I wanted to be
yeah,
present, because you come back from that and you don't sleep right for 6 days, and you're a zombie on the couch in addition to still working, 12, 14 hours a day.
yeah.
I wasn't able to be as engaged with my family as I wanted to be. So the majority of the desire to transition was about being able to be that dad,
Mhm.
and it stopped. I mean, there were no more phone calls on Saturday that says be in Singapore for a major presentation on Wednesday morning. That doesn't happen here when you're running a
I can't
local business
imagine.
in South Austin, and so that's been fantastic. And so I have been able to really focus on my family and spending time
Mhm.
with my family and with my wife, and not kind of be that zombie for 4 or 5 days recovering from
Yeah.
a completely inverted day and night. And so as it goes to that, it definitely has been successful and has brought me that kind of stability in scheduling and able to be with my family.
Yeah. What would you say to someone that's maybe struggling with the same decision of which way to transition between corporate and business ownership?
Well, I would say be very, very thoughtful and intentional in what you try to do.
Mm,
There were a couple companies that I actually made offers on, and for one reason or another, the didn't progress the way that it needed to progress, and we ended up backing out of those deals, and found out 2, 3 months later that the company had a major issue, and
mm.
lost 50% of its revenue because they had one key employee that quit or got fired or something like that, and I mean, that would have been a disaster had I gone through
Yeah.
with some of those. So just be very, very careful. Take your time, you know figure out what it is that you wanted. And for me, I already kind of defined what I wanted, right? I
Yeah.
was looking for a specific type of organization. But certainly if you have an industry that you're passionate about, or a particular item, product that you're knowledgeable about, and have passion about it, I mean, go for it. But just be very, very careful, because there are a lot of damaged businesses out there that are
Mhm.
trying to dump themselves and can
Mm,
put a pretty good spin on things. And
I bet.
it's one or two people away from not being a functional company. So just be
Right.
very, very careful, but have intention and enjoy it, right? I mean, I always kind of had this passion that I wanted to run a business. I wanted to, not ask 14 VPs over a 3-month period if I can do something. I
Mm,
want to be able to make decisions and move very quickly, and that's been really exciting, right? I mean, if a new vendor comes to us and offers us a new product, and I can sit down with 3 people and say, what do you guys think? Like, here's how it impacts us.
mhm.
Here's the cost. Here's what we think the benefits are. Should we do this? Yes or no? Okay, great. Boom. Decision done. 1 hour, right? No three
Love it.
months. No, I've got 10 guys that like it and 2 that don't. And so we're gonna talk about it for another 3 months. And so that can be incredibly rewarding, and the buck stops with you. And
Hmm.
you're accountable for those decisions for good or for worse, because for the 10 things that we've tried, one of them was a great idea and others were like, maybe we shouldn't have done
Yeah.
that. But also you can make the decision, okay, we're done with this, right? We're done with this
Hmm.
decision
Hmm.
now, right? We tried it 6 months ago, but it's exciting, and certainly a point of learning for me, that you have to keep trying things, right?
Hmm.
Not everything is going to hit, and that's okay, right? I mean, you can't be down over the 9 things that didn't work, or the 9 products that
Yeah.
you tried, or new sales approaches that you tried, because they're not going to work. But that doesn't mean don't try, because if you don't
Mm.
try, you absolutely will not win. If you don't swing the bat, you will not hit a home run, guaranteed, right? But if you swing the bat 10 times, you're not guaranteed a home run either. But
Hmm.
you have to keep trying. So we're
I love.
constantly trying to reinvent ourselves, and constantly looking at new opportunities, constantly looking at the market, constantly looking at technology changes, for some of the things that we sell, that can bring more value to people.
Hmm.
And certainly, because the market is not stagnant, it is constantly changing. What people want and what people are willing to pay for things has changed a lot, even over the 5, 6 years that I've been doing this.
Yeah. That's amazing. I wrote down what you said. Define what you want for a business and a life. And I think that's such good wisdom. You mentioned off before we started the conversation that you had a sister company for South Austin Metals. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that company is Compound Security Specialist, and that is a company that kind of they kind of grew up together as one company that really was Compound Security. You know, because my experience was in supply chains and reselling and stocking and vendor management, we were able to grow South Austin Metals significantly, to the tune of 10x,
Mm,
in the 5 years that I've been here. But Compound Security is a company that provides basically security gates and fencing, cameras, access control, to multiple different markets inside kind of the area of Austin. So, we've done multifamily installation where we'll do all the low voltage, we'll do all the cameras, all the gates, all the
wow.
fencing. And we're kind of moving a little bit away from the multifamily space, that it is a challenging market, and certainly challenging for a small company like ours. But, we are selling, full gate systems and entry control,
Wow.
and cameras, to multiple companies and individuals at this point. And we have that same advantage that I talked about with our fabrication shop, right? I'm bringing in, literally thousands of tons of steel a year, so I get the very best pricing on that. So if I'm going to sell a gate or a fencing system, especially
Mm,
something that's custom built, right, I can offer my very cheap steel built in my own fabrication shop and take it out to the field and install it, and that gives us a cost advantage, right? Additionally, we have you know really, really significant distributorships and partnerships with the vendors in our supply chain, who provide, not only, great pricing because of the volume that we're doing, but they provide us with a lot of technical support, which allows us to continue to service our customers and provide warranty support. And so we're doing that. We're actually the City of Austin's gate provider. So we
oh,
do the service on all of the water treatment facilities, the airport, the judicial buildings,
oh,
the
wow.
police and fire, and we have a whole team of service individuals that are out there, continuously keeping the gates running. In that particular space, I really look at it as a community service organization. Yes, we're a
Mm,
for-profit company, right? But there are people out there that are struggling with with crime and with people getting into their pools and getting into their apartment
Oh, yeah.
complexes and so in addition to the fact that we're kind of keeping the city of Austin running. I mean, if those gates aren't
Mhm.
opening at the police department or at the fire department, right?
Right.
They're not getting in and out, right? So I mean, we're here 24/7 for them, and we provide, we do a lot of service calls for the city. There's also some aging infrastructure, and so we're working with some of the departments on replacing and
Wow.
upgrading the infrastructure that they have, right? But again, that it all kind of works together because we're talking about
Yeah.
steel, we're talking about fabrication, and then we're talking about the next step of
Hmm.
actually installation, the electronics, the automation, all that stuff. But our our service department is here and actively working to keep all the. I mean, we probably have 2,000 customers across the city
Wow.
from a
That's so
service.
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So was that part of the acquisition that you acquired both, or is that something that you developed after coming on board?
Yeah, the acquisition was really for compound security specialist, and so
Okay.
that has been going, and it kind of grew up as a company that had a small metal shop off to the side, didn't really
Hmm.
sell much steel, didn't really sell much fabrication. It was really there just to produce the gates and fencing for
Okay.
compound security specialists, right? I saw an opportunity with South Austin Metals just because of my experience in supply chain and purchasing,
Mm.
right, that I was able to, bring in, very, very large quantities of steel at the very best pricing. That took years to do though. That did not
Hmm.
happen overnight. I mean, if you go to, if you're buying, 10 tons a month, and you go to a mill, the guys that make it, and say, hey, I'd like to buy, really cheap steel from you, and I only need 10 tons a month, they're going to laugh at you. And that laughter happened a lot. But after 3 years, kind of very slowly increased what we were, to the point where they took us seriously, and now we're
Hmm.
able to do a couple hundred tons a month
Wow.
from the mills, and I mean, that's pricing that is probably 40-50% better than what we were able to do before that.
That's
And so that's
amazing.
really enabled that growth. But it's also a public service, right? Because a lot of the big distributors around Austin are not going to sell to the public,
Mm.
right? If you roll up in your truck and you want, four pieces of 4x4, they're not going to sell to you.
Mm.
They're looking to sell truckloads. They're looking to sell full bundles, right? We're doing that part now, and I have 50 of those 4x4s sitting in the back, and a guy can come in and buy half of it, half a stick,
Yeah.
or he can buy a truckload from him if he wants to. But what we're committed to doing is being very, very quick, very, very
Hmm.
helpful. We do find a lot of people that are buying steel struggle with what's the proper way to uh, give the description of what you want for an I-beam, for example. I-beams have a unique way of being named, and we
Uh-huh.
want to help people through that, right? People come in
Mm.
all the time, say, hey, I'm building this, but I'm not really sure how to do it. We're going to bring people out that are going to talk to you about what is it that
Wow.
is the best way to do this. Here's our experience with doing a planter box like this, or a door, or a window, and we're going to
Hmm.
help you, and we're going to give you the very best price. But for the people that come through, we have a lot of landscapers that come in, and they're buying metal for edging, and they're buying planter boxes and stuff, right? One of the things that we take a lot of pride in is that not only are we going to be helpful for you in identifying what you want, we're going to walk you through the yard, we're going to talk to you about all the different things that are options for you, but we're very fast. If you know exactly what you want, you're going to come in.
Hmm.
We're going to sell it to you. We're going to drive you right around back. We're going to pull up with the telehandler. We're going to cut it for you, load your truck, and we want you out of here in 15 minutes. Right?
Wow.
That's not always the case for a lot of our competitors in the market. Again, that to me is providing value to those business owners. I know
Mm-hmm.
those business owners. They come in, they talk with me, and I tell them our priority is for your crews that come in. I don't want them spending 2 hours here getting their material cut and loaded in the truck. I want them to spend 15 minutes so they can get back out so you can continue to make revenue.
Yeah, I love that. I can tell that you're really passionate about all of this. Where do you get your passion for these businesses, and how do
Mhm.
you keep it right there at the surface?
Yeah, I have. I'm not since I have the benefit, the fact that I moved from the corporate world where everything revolves around vision statements and all these formal
Mm.
things, and we got page after page, right? But I look at our small business as a community service organization.
Mm.
We want to enable those small companies to be successful as well, and by not spending 2 hours getting your material cut and getting loaded. I'm providing a service. I'm providing an hour and 45
Mm-hmm.
minutes of productivity time for those other small business owners that need material and they need to keep moving, right? Um,
Yeah.
Prior to my time in the corporate world, I was in the Air Force, and I was kind of a force protection and security expert in that particular space, right? So when we talk about compound security, we're talking about providing physical security to
Mm.
businesses, to homes, to apartment complexes, to HOAs, to the city, right? I have a passion for that as well, right? And that physical security is very important in today's day and age. There are a lot of companies out
Yeah.
there that are struggling, right? We get the phone calls all the time about people that have come in and their business has just been cleaned out. And they say, I need a
Mm.
security gate. I need it right now. Or they had security gates and somebody came in and, stole a forklift out of their yard and drove right over the top of their gate. And they have
Wow.
no security at all. They need that gate replaced like today. And we have done that for them. So
Mm.
I have a passion for, enabling other businesses, for providing them with significant value, and I have a passion for the physical security of all of the different types of organizations I talked about.
I love that. So I want to jump to the future a little bit. You you talk about your corporate life, your small business life, and your passion for that, and your family. So where do you see yourself and these businesses in the next 3 to 5 years?
It's a great question. We've gone through a period in the last 9 months that isn't a surprise to anybody, that has been a very, very challenging environment, right? We've seen revenues take a hit, right? We've seen the price of the things that we're selling drop by almost 50%, which is fantastic for our customers. It's a challenge for us. If the price of steel goes down by 50%, which it has, your revenue goes down by 50%.
Mm.
That is a significant challenge. There's been, if I look at the business owners that are coming in and buying from us, and again, that's landscapers, builders, remodelers,
Mhm.
construction professionals. Many of them have told me over the last 9 months that they're struggling significantly with the
Mm.
amount of work that they have. A lot of that's driven by interest rates. A lot of that is driven by, the people that are purchasing a, $150,000 landscape remodel or landscape architecture type project. The people
Mhm.
that are buying that, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of challenge, right? Certainly interest rates have a part of that, but there's been a huge amount of uncertainty. And so a lot of my downstream customers are struggling with that. We're struggling with that. um, I think we all felt that, regardless of which way the election went, that would bring
Mm.
some amount of certainty and some amount of resolution to the um, the challenges and just kind of the unknown that we're all
Yeah.
seeing. And what I see just in the last 3 weeks from those business owners is we're seeing a pickup in business. I'm talking to those business owners. They're seeing an increase. A lot of projects that have been quoted and requoted and requoted, they're
Mm.
starting to pull the trigger on those, right? So I'm excited about the certainty. I'm excited about kind of everybody getting past all of the negative emotions one way or the other about prior to the election, but really it's the unknown.
Mhm.
And so we're excited about some of the new products that we're offering. We're excited about the kind of resurgence in business that we're starting to see, and we want to continue to be a part of that, right? And as there's huge number of projects, construction projects that are kicking off in Austin. I mean, we want to be able to provide support where we can.
Mhm.
We're excited about, a lot of people are making the decision to purchase gate systems and camera systems and access control, right? So, what we're doing right now is we're preparing ourselves for the early part of next year, which is, I think, when we're really going to see business kind of get back to normal. Love to
Yeah.
see the steel prices kind of recover a little bit. We'd love to see interest rates drop because that's still driving, kind of soft demand is what I'd call it at
Mhm.
this point.
So do you see or even think about an exit strategy for yourself?
I think that is probably out there on the horizon.
Mhm.
I think for me that there are many things that I would still like to accomplish in this
Yeah.
business before I say it's time to pull the ejection handles. Um, I'd really like to see us kind of grow back to the levels that we had seen in previous years.
Mm-hmm.
There's some continuous refinements in operations and marketing and some improvements in our supply chain and a lot of things that I just feel like are undone for me
Yeah.
that I would like to accomplish. But before we talk about that,
Yeah. I get that.
certainly there is. I mean, I think every business owner. I'm 55, and so a lot of the business owners that are my age are kind of thinking, okay, what's the exit strategy? I can continue to work for a long time, and I
Yeah.
probably will. But I'm not really sure what the horizon looks like for me beyond
Yeah.
3 years. But right now, what I can say is, we're committed to continuous improvement here. We're committed to, continue to bring value to the
Mm-hmm.
community.
That's great. I love that so much. I have a feeling that you'll be having vision and passion about whatever you're doing at no matter what age and stage. You're just really, which I find a lot of entrepreneurs and executive leaders are. There's not really, there might be an exit strategy, but it's onto something else. Yeah, I love that. Well, I loved hearing your story. And now I would like to get into some rapid fire questions that are really fun. Are you
Okay,
ready?
absolutely.
All right. What is the key to success for you?
Well, I think it goes back to what you were just talking about. It's having a passion for efficiencies, having a passion for operational excellence, and having a passion for the community service, right? If you're not passionate about it, if you're not excited about a win, or if you're not excited about a project for a customer that goes really well and the customer's thrilled with it,
Yeah.
then there's not much reward for you, right? But for me,
Mhm.
when I see a win, I get a new supplier and they're going to save me 20% on what it is I'm already buying, and I can pass that cost advantage on to my customers. I get really excited about that. And so it is the little wins, and it is taking joy in the wins and celebrating the wins, not only for yourself but for your staff, that
Mhm.
continue to drive me.
Yeah, I love that. All right, what is your one piece of advice that you would give to other business owners?
A lot of business owners, and this kind of goes back to my corporate experience, a lot of people buy material from whoever is selling it,
Mm,
shop everything, right? Maintain your relationships with your vendors. Let your vendors know what it is you're trying to do, right? And always look for the opportunity to improve your cost points, right? There
mm,
there are so many options out there. There's so many ways to be creative to bring in material at a better price. And when you get that better price, pass that on to your customer because that can be a significant competitive advantage. I see too many customers that don't have the background that I have in supply chains that will just buy from whoever
mhm.
gives them a bid, right? But be very intentional about the way that you're purchasing things and the way that you construct your supply chains, right? There's massive
Yeah.
corporations that will sell you anything you want, right? But they may not necessarily be the best price. They may not necessarily be able to provide the volumes that you need, right? So
Mhm.
I mean, we take a very active approach with our vendors, right? We go to lunch with our vendors once a month and
Oh,
talk to
wow.
them about what's coming up, right? Hey, if I needed this kind of material, how long do you need in advance of me needing it?
Mhm.
How long do I need to tell you? So think about all those things. So be very intentional
It's
about your
good.
supply chains. There's a reason that many corporate boards are adding, a CPO, a chief purchasing officer, or chief procurement
Mm,
officer, because purchasing and supply chain is a dramatic portion of your business that is very
yeah,
often overlooked by business owners.
it's good. It's really good advice. All right, book or podcast, what are you reading or listening to right now?
I'm a podcast guy. Let me take that back. It's not podcast. I listen to books in my
Oh.
arduous my trek between between South Austin and Leander every single
Mhm.
day, right? So I'm actually a fan of Mike Michalowicz, and so Mike is kind of well known for the Profit First books, but then there's
Mhm.
also the Pumpkin Plan and Fix This Next, and there's a whole host of books that Mike has written that are really valuable for the small business owner. So I kind of listen
I
to
love
those
that.
over and over again.
I love that. I'm writing that down. Okay,
Profit
this is a
First is really kind of my favorite.
profit first,
Hmm.
and then pumpkin plan is what I wrote down.
Pumpkin Plan's fantastic. Yes.
Okay. All right, this is a fun question. If you had a little bit of magic dust and could sprinkle it anywhere in your business, where would you sprinkle it?
I would sprinkle it on my people. Um,
Mm,
and I would want that magic dust to want them to have the passion for customer excellence that we're sharing, from the top down.
mm,
And I would want them to feel that this company is a value to their lives, that the benefits that we have are great for them, that they're being paid well, and I'd want them to feel the satisfaction in a job well done that I feel.
that's really good. So good. I love that so much. I can tell just from you talking about your team just now that you're also a really good leader.
Uh, Thank you. They may not agree all the time, but one of I mean, there's a tremendous responsibility that comes with being a business owner as well, right?
Mhm.
Obviously, I want to be successful for the business and for my family, but the business must be successful to continue to provide
Yeah.
all the benefits that we provide and the pay. And there are families outside of these people who are depending upon us to continue to be here, to continue to be successful for their own livelihood.
Mhm.
And that
Yeah.
is not lost on me. It's very, very important part of what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah. I love that. All right. Before we get to the last question of the day, share with our audience how they can find you either on social, your website, or hire you.
Yeah, so we're actually reconstructing websites right now and kind of updating them, but southaustinmetals.com and compoundsecurityspecialists.com. And those we have contact pages on there where you can contact the team, and you can also look us up on Google Maps, Apple Maps, and that'll take you to the websites, right? It'll show you our location. The phone numbers are there. You can call in, ask about whatever products you're interested in, ask for what do we do,
Mhm.
what can we help you with, and we test that all the time and make sure that when people are sending those contact forms, we're getting back to you within 24 hours. But
Yeah.
you also come by, right? Right here off
Yeah.
exit 226 when you're going south on I-35. I mean, come in if you're looking at steel or you want to talk about a fabrication project. I mean, we're going to sit down with you and talk about what your needs are. We're going to show you all our products, all of our
That's
capabilities, and
great.
I'm happy to do that.
That's awesome. All right. What is inspiring you today?
I am inspired by seeing the pep in the step of all my customers over the last
Mm,
week and the business owners because I haven't seen that pep for the last
mm,
6 months, right? I'm seeing
mm.
people that are coming in that are really, really struggling. Again, landscapers, landscape architects, builders,
Yeah.
really struggling with um, not knowing if they're even going to be able to stay in business for the next 6 months. And
Mm,
I'm seeing a level of optimism and a level of consumer confidence that is giving me hope, and I'm happy for them, right? But there's been a lot of worried people out there, and so I'm inspired by seeing customers that I haven't seen for a long time come back in
yeah.
and say, I got a huge job. And I got three more right after this one.
It's great.
And things
Yeah.
are going to be great. And I'm looking forward to working with you on these projects. I'm excited about that. I think it's good for the whole industry. It's good for everybody. There's a lot of
Mhm.
families behind all of
Mhm.
those businesses and all of those employees. There's a lot of families that are depending upon this resurgence in confidence that we're seeing. And I'm excited about that. And I think next year is going to be absolutely phenomenal
Yeah.
for the city of Austin.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that so much, and I've seen a lot of that myself. Well, I could talk about this all day. I love your passion for what you do and how you serve the community and your team so well. So thank you for joining us today. It was just a really great conversation, and I just want to encourage everyone who's listening or watching to save this show because Chris really did have some really great nuggets of wisdom that he shared about business ownership and even acquisition. So also, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so that you get a notification every time a new conversation drops, just like this one. Thanks to everyone who joined us today, but a special thank you to you, Chris. It was great to have you as our guest today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll see you next time. Bye bye.